Guide to Ovule Arrangement. Placentation. Hey, plant enthusiasts, and welcome to the channel. Ever wondered how those tiny seeds inside your favorite fruits are so neatly organized? Or how a single flower can produce so many seeds? Well, today, we are diving into a fascinating botanical concept called placentation. Think of it as the secret blueprint for seed arrangement inside a flower's ovary. Get ready to have your mind blown by the intricate and diverse ways plants organize their future generations. What exactly is placentation? Let's break it down. Imagine the ovary of a flower. That's the part that will eventually become the fruit. Inside this ovary are tiny structures called ovules. These ovules are the future seeds. Now, just like a baby is connected to its mother via an umbilical cord, each ovule is attached to the ovary wall by a little stalk called the funiculus. The specific part of the ovary where this funiculus attaches is called the placenta. And here's the key: placentation simply describes how these ovules are arranged and attached to this placenta within the ovary. It's all about the pattern of connection. Placentation. The arrangement and attachment of ovules to the placenta within the ovary. Why does placentation matter? Now you might be thinking, why is this arrangement so important? Well, the placenta isn't just a point of attachment. It's a vital lifeline. It's the structure that provides the developing embryo inside the ovule with all the essential goodies, nutrients, water, and even oxygen. It also helps in removing waste products. So, the way ovules are positioned on the placenta can influence their access to these resources and ultimately, the successful development of seeds. What's cool is that placentation patterns vary dramatically across different plant species. It's like each plant has its unique way of organizing its precious seeds. Let's explore some of these amazing patterns. Diving into the types of placentation. Marginal. Our first stop is marginal placentation. This is typically found in flowers with a single carpel. Think of a simple pod-like structure. In marginal placentation, the placenta forms a ridge along the ventral side that's like the inner seam of the ovary. And the ovules? They are neatly arranged in two vertical rows along this ridge. Leguminosae family, that includes your peas and beans. Next time you open a pea pod, notice how the peas, which developed from the ovules, are attached in a line along one side. That's marginal placentation in action. Exploring parietal placentation. Next up, we have parietal placentation. This occurs in ovaries that are formed from two or more fused carpels. In this type, the ovules don't attach to a central axis. Instead, they develop on the inner walls of the ovary. Interestingly, sometimes in parietal placentation, false walls or septa can develop, partially dividing the ovary into chambers, even though the ovules are still attached to the outer walls. Think of the Papaveraceae family, which includes poppies. Their ovaries exhibit parietal placentation. You can often see multiple seeds attached along the inner surface of the seed capsule. Understanding axile placentation. Now, let's move to axial placentation. This is found in ovaries formed from multiple fused carpels, and here, things get a bit more organized centrally. The carpels fuse to form septa, which create distinct chambers or locules within the ovary. The ovules are then attached to a central axis that runs through the middle of these locules. So, if you were to cut a cross-section, you'd see the ovules arranged around the center, within their compartments. Familiar examples of axile placentation include plants from the Solanaceae family, like tomatoes and peppers, and the Malvaceae family, like hibiscus. If you cut a tomato in half, you'll see the seeds arranged in compartments around the center. That's axile placentation. The simplicity of basal placentation. Our next type is basal placentation. This one is quite straightforward. As the name suggests, a single ovule is attached at the base of the ovary. The placenta develops right on the thalamus, that's the part of the flower stalk where the ovary sits, and it bears just one ovule. An example of basal placentation is found in the Compositae family, also known as the Asteraceae family, which includes sunflowers and daisies. Each of those individual seeds you get from a sunflower head developed from a single flower with basal placentation. Exploring free central placentation. Now for something a little different, free central placentation. This also occurs in ovaries formed from multiple fused carpels. However, unlike axile placentation, in free central placentation, the septa break down, resulting in a single, unilocular, one-chambered ovary. Despite the lack of internal walls, the ovules are still attached to a central axis that rises from the base of the ovary. So, the ovules are in the center but without any dividing walls. You can find free central placentation in plants like dianthus and primrose. Finally, we have superficial placentation. This type is somewhat similar to axile placentation in that it occurs in a multilocular ovary, many chambers. However, the key difference is that in superficial placentation, the ovules develop on the inner surface of the ovary wall in each of these locules. So, instead of being attached to a central axis, they are spread out along the inner boundaries of the compartments. Test your knowledge. All right, time to put your knowledge to the test. Here's a quick quiz. On the screen, you'll see different diagrams of ovary cross-sections. Can you identify the type of placentation shown in each? Take a moment to think about it. How did you do? Let me know in the comments below. So, there you have it. Placentation, the seemingly simple yet incredibly diverse way plants arrange their future seeds. From the neat rows of marginal placentation to the central organization of axile and free central types and the wall-bound ovules of parietal and superficial placentation, each pattern reflects the fascinating adaptations and evolutionary history of different plant groups. I hope this video has shed some light on this amazing aspect of plant biology. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more content, so that you don't miss our next exploration into the wonders of the plant kingdom. Thanks for watching.